Hey everybody, ronarray here, and during the second part of the current league I've been testing various farming mechanics. Some of them been pretty profitable, such as stormboxes for example, and some of them provided very low amount of currency, such as rogue exiles, as I already showcased in my previous videos. And I think right now it's a perfect opportunity to test a mechanic which is not really widely used, to see if it's even profitable and if there's like a point to invest it. Azmerian Spirits, or Wisps as people call them. So in this video I'm going to explain how I tested Wisps. Are they even working? Because that's like a very big question for all of us. And we'll also share my opinion about the state of current mechanic overall. Let's go. So now let's talk about methodology of that test. First off, I've been using dedicated atlas for Azmerian Spirits and try to take all the passive that kinda relates to them. So I took all the chances right here, I took merging worlds, so 25% chance for modifiers on essence monsters in your maps to be replaced with essences, and when monster in your maps is possessed by sacred spirit, it also possessed by another random spirit. I also took small point right here for additional chances, and out of options with different colors for spirit, I took a yellow one, which is a vivid spirit, just to hope for some talismans in the process. However, since just relying on Atlas already proved like it's not really enough, I also decided to use at least a tower buff to make sure that we are going to encounter more spirits in general. So most of the time I just buffed a few tablets right here for chances for spirit, and at my maps I had additional quantity, a little rarity, number of rare monsters, and increased chances to contain Azmerian Spirits. I already completed most of my maps around, so here's just example of one of those, with just like an average buff that I've been running. In the maps, I usually had about 600% chance to contain spirit, and it led to a decent amount of spirits, which is very surprising. At the start of the test, I also been using Omen of the Hunt. While this item is active in your inventory, the next possessed monster you kill with will release its Azmerian Spirit. I've been using those omens about 5 to 6 times, but I noticed that they're not really providing a lot of value either. Spirit is getting released, it's going to the next rare, but the next rare is dropping nothing again. So you're practically paying 8 exalteds for just a small chance to drop a talisman, like in theory. So currently I wouldn't recommend using omens because you're just going to lose currency that way. And I don't really think that the small chance to drop talisman is worth the investment. And now let's talk about the chances and what I received in the process and during that test. So first off, I wanted to say that I already recommended to farm bosses which are possessed by spirits while using the unique tablet. I think it's a pretty nice strategy. However, that test is adding additional question marks to it because I'm not sure how exactly good spirits are even working right now. And let's discuss it in a little more details after I will showcase you all the results and all the loot. So initially, I wanted to get 50 maps done with that setup as I'm usually doing it. However, considering the results being just abysmally bad, I stopped at 40 maps, even if some people in my chat try to persuade me to stop at 30. I think 40 maps are pretty much enough to showcase how bad spirits are currently to farm them. In 40 maps, I received 67 spirits, which is in my opinion pretty good, so they've been spawning pretty often, it's almost 2 per map, and sometimes I had like 1, and it's been barely situations when I had like no spirits at all, so I almost always had at least 1. But out of 67 spirits, I dropped only 34 exalteds, and practically only 1 talisman. No divines, no additional currency, I calculated a few chaos drops into exalted count here, and nothing else dropped. So most of the time, even when 2 spirits possessed some monster, you can just see it in my run right here, so I'm running through the whole map. A lot of monsters just covered by spirits, and in the end, 2 spirits are finally possessing 1 rare, I'm killing it, and there is practically no loot at all. So right now, I really feel like with such chances, spirits are not providing any kind of value. Because even the chance to get talismans are pretty low right now in my opinion, and getting any good ones is pretty hard as well. So the only talisman that I got in the process being Wolf Talisman, which provides like magnitude of bleeding you inflict and allies in your presence have 14% increased critical damage bonus. That's it. So since I did about 40 maps, it's practically less than 1 exalted per map from spirits. And we can also argue that maybe those rares that I killed would just drop those exalteds even without spirits at all. So maybe just like the drop from the rares. That way it's hard to distinguish where exalteds from the spirits and where exalteds from the rares coming in. Even since I've been farming maps with like quantity and rarity buffs, and I also have about 100% quantity on my character. 100% rarity, I'm sorry. So even with that situation, it still need to keep in mind that there are practically no currency dropping from spirits. So my opinion right now that the spirits are just bugged and not providing anything. According to GG, spirits should give you up to like 200% rarity in some cases, improving amount of currency that you are dropping and amount of item that you are dropping from your rares. But I really feel like that number is probably bugged and maybe spirits are not working at all in your maps. Because very often when I've been killing a rare with multiple spirits inside, the loot been completely non-existent. No proper rares, no currency, practically nothing. If it would be like 200% rarity buff, I'm absolutely sure that loot should be better than that. So my leading theory right now is that spirits are still bugged and not providing any kind of proper loot whatsoever. And the only technique that we can still use to utilize spirit in any kind of sensible form is pretty much using the tablet, which will make spirits to possess your bosses, to improve your rares. But even that is kinda questionable right now. Maybe you can just drop the tablet, completely ignore the spirits and just farm the bosses themselves and use more tablets to improve the bosses, like adding modifiers to bosses. Because there is a big chance that spirits currently providing literally no upside at all, and they're absolutely useless. And that's pretty unfortunate because I think the whole mechanic itself is pretty fun and maybe it could work at some level. There's also a very important moment to comment on, that spirits currently require you to just run a little faster than the spirit itself, and you need to practically lead the spirit to rares, which is a very annoying situation in maps. You need to stop attacking, you need to make sure you're not killing those rares, you need to make sure that you're moving the spirit to a proper rare and there's like no other rares around, and you need to make sure that you're killing a lot of monsters on the way too. It's not really happening that often. I spent hours testing it and trying to make it work, but unfortunately, even after you've done all of that, well, here's your loot, look at that. It's practically providing no upside. And in my opinion currently, spirits are not worth it in any kind of form, and they, together with like Rogue Exiles, are probably one of the worst mechanics that you can take for your Atlas and try to farm. So I recommend everybody to just avoid them until GG will just look at that and maybe change how spirits are even interacting with anything. Because 34 exalteds per 40 maps is just catastrophical level amount of currency. Spirits also been not buffed completely by the patch that improved the whole loot situation, and currently nothing changed for them, so spirits are showcasing literally the same results as we had before the patch, which is very sad in my opinion, because one of the goals of the patch been to improve additional mechanics such as spirit. But most of the time spirits are not affected, and since in my opinion they're currently bugged and not provide the rarity, after testing so many maps, I'm very certain about that, even if I can't properly prove it. I would say that spirits right now just require a pretty big rework. So that's it, and there's nothing else to add. I think the only question that still stands, are spirits that bad as Rogue Exiles, or Rogue Exiles could be like a little better or a little worse. So let me know in the comments which mechanic right now in your opinion is providing the less value to your maps and you just ignore it constantly. And thank you very much for watching. Unfortunately that test went pretty bad. Hope my next one is going to be better, and I will try to do my best to keep doing a great content. Thank you very much for watching again, and ronarray out.